Dear students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Professor P. Bhaskar Reddy, Department of Ancient Indian History, Culture and Archaeology, Sri Venkateswara University, Tirupati, the Principal Investigator of the course Indian Culture. In the present module of the paper Outlines of Indian History, you are going to learn about an important dynasty of the Delhi Sultanate, that is the Tughlaq Dynasty. It is known that the Tughlaq Dynasty, which was a third of the Delhi Sultanate, played an important role in history and culture of India. Under the same time, the establishment of the Tughlaq rule, it increased the popularity and prestige of the Delhi Sultanate. The learning objectives of the module are the origin and establishment of the Tughlaq Dynasty, the Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, his career, how he established the dynasty, his achievements, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, his policies and experiments, Firoz Shah Tughlaq's policies and achievements, and the declining of Tughlaq Dynasty. With these objectives, let us start our discussion to know about origin of the Tughlaq Dynasty, how the Tughlaq Dynasty rose to prominence, the background of Ghiyasuddin, and how he not only established the dynasty and increased the Delhi Sultanate. Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq was the founder. He belonged to the Qurana Turkic type. The Tughlaq Dynasty provided three competent rulers: Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and Firoz Shah Tughlaq. The first two sultans ruled over an empire which comprised almost the entire country. However, the empire of Firoz was smaller, but even then it was as large as that ruled over by Alauddin Khilji. With this brief introduction, let us know about the Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq and his career. Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq was known as Ghazi Malik, and sometimes he was simply called as Tughlaq Shah. He played an important role before the establishment of the Tughlaq Empire during the time of Alauddin Khilji in driving out Mongols. He also served as the governor of Dipalpur, located in the Punjab region. Finally, he overthrew Khusru Khan, the last king of Khilji dynasty, and occupied the throne of Delhi Sultanate. The service rendered by Ghiyasuddin can be divided into three categories: administrative reforms attempted by Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, his conquests, and his contribution in the fields of arts and letters. Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, after the establishment of the Tughlaq dynasty, he started with administrative reforms. Since he was an experienced warrior statesman and able administrator, he followed the administration based on principles of justice, benevolence, and public welfare. He restored the lands of those who had been deprived of them by Alauddin Khilji. He also suppressed the followers of Khusru by confiscating their lands. The practice of physical torture in case of economic offense and recovery of debts was also given up. He discarded Alauddin's system of measurement of land for assessment of land revenue. Because of that, the rate of land revenue was reduced to 1/3 of the produce. With these reforms, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq brought so many changes in the administrators of the Delhi Sultanate and also the policies of the Delhi Sultanate. After administrative reforms, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq started his conquest to expand the territorial limits. Regarding the policies of the Tughlaqs changed their policies in comparative with the earlier Khiljis. Khiljis they extended their territories over the south, but they never have a thought of brought all the territories under direct administration. But however, the Tughlaqs followed the policy of get the entire land under their own administration. In implementation of that, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq started his conquest. The most important event during his reign was the conquest of Warangal. Ghiyasuddin sent his son Juna Khan to subdue Prataprudra of Warangal in the year 1321 to reassert Delhi's authority over Kakatiyan Empire. But the campaign failed in its mission. Once again, Juna Khan conducted another expedition against Warangal in the year 1323. In this expedition, Juna Khan successfully captured Warangal and took Prataprudra as prisoner. While Prataprudra was taken as a prisoner and sending to Delhi, on the way he committed suicide. Thus, the Kakatiyan kingdom was easily annexed by the Muhammad bin Tughlaq under the Tughlaq Dynasty. The city of Warangal named as Sultanpur. After the annexation of Warangal, Muhammad bin Tughlaq marched his armies to south, defeated the Pandyan ruler and also subdued the Hoysala ruler, and also Jajnagar, Orissa was also occupied by the Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Thus, the entire South India came under the control of Tughlaqs during the invasions of Ghiyasuddin. After the completion of South Indian conquest, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq taken up another conquest against the Bengal. Bengal, which was torn by the civil war between the various contenders of the throne, attracted attention of the Sultan. Ghiyasuddin, with a huge army, marched towards the Bengal. They suppressed the rebellions and placed Naziruddin on the throne of West Bengal as a vassal of Delhi, and East Bengal was annexed directly to the Tughlaq dynasty. In the year 1324, the Mongols also invaded northern India, but they were defeated. The leaders were captured and brought to Delhi. Juna Khan also led an expedition on Jajnagar and acquired a vast booty. With all his success, when the Sultan Ghiyasuddin returned to Delhi, his son Ulugh Khan hastily built a temporary wooden pavilion. However, it was not strong enough and collapsed. Both the Sultan Ghiyasuddin and his younger son were crushed to death. The story is described in detail by Ismail and Ibn Battuta. Both accuse Ulugh Khan of parricide, but some later writers considered Ulugh Khan to have been innocent. Unfortunately, Ghiyasuddin lost his life miserably because of the collapse of building. Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, not only a great warrior, he was a patron of arts and letters. He patronized Amish Khusru. He also constructed a new city, Tughlaqabad, near Delhi, with a big fort to protect the Delhi Sultanate from Mongol attacks. It was a new touch to the architecture of Sultanate period. Have a look at the Tughlaqabad fort and its beautiful buildings. So far, we have learnt about Ghiyasuddin as a founder, how he established the Tughlaq dynasty, his administrative reforms, conquests, and his contribution to arts and letters. After the death of Ghiyasuddin, he was succeeded by his son Muhammad bin Tughlaq in the year 1325 and ruled up to 1351. This period and the rule of Muhammad bin Tughlaq is an important period in all matters of Indian history and culture. Let us start. The Muhammad bin Tughlaq, his career, policies and achievements. Juna Khan alias Ulugh Khan succeeded his father under the title of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. During this period of 26 years, he introduced several new and novel experiments and also experienced the impact of the same. It may be stated here that no ruler in the medieval India has evoked so much criticism and discussion concerning his policies and character as Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Muhammad bin Tughlaq, no doubt, he is one of the most remarkable rulers of the age. In character, he was a combination of kindness and cruelty. Regarding his personal life is concerned, he was a simple and free from all vices of the age like drinking, debauchery, etc. He was highly generous even to his enemies. He was a great scholar of Persian, Arabic, well versed in astronomy, philosophy, mathematics, medicine, logic, and so on. In religious and philosophical matters are concerned, he was a rationalist. He anticipated in holding religious discussions with Hindu yogis and Jaina saints. He offended the Orthodox Muslim ulama by curbing their political influence. He also tried to resolve secular problems through secular methods. He also believed in the principle that all offenses are open to a talented person. He had been described by contemporaries by considering his character as he is one of the wonders of the age in which he lived. All these qualities were overshadowed by his cruelty and obscenity. In spite of rare qualities and scholarship, he was a failure as a ruler. His plan was endowed with remarkable political foresight, but in practice, they left loose hell. The contradictory qualities were obvious in all the 5 ambitious projects he has taken during his tenure. They are the transfer of the capital, introduction of token currency, Khorasan expedition, Karachi expedition, and enhancement of land revenue in the Doab region. With this introduction on Muhammad bin Tughlaq and his character and policies, now let us turn our discussion about his projects, how he started this project, its execution, and how it was reverted. Among the important projects, the transfer of the capital from Delhi to Daulatabad is the one which executed in the year 1327. The most controversial step was the transfer of the capital. The main motive for the transfer of capital to Daulatabad was its central location and close proximity to the south. The scheme of the transfer of the capital was properly executed by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. He ordered all the officers and learned men, including Sufi saints, to shift to Daulatabad. However, the capital of the Delhi Sultanate, remained as a large and a populous city even in the absence of Sultan. Though Muhammad bin Tughlaq started the execution of the project, shifting of the capital from Delhi to Daulatabad, in execution he faced so many problems because Daulatabad located more than 1,500 kilometers away from Delhi. To overcome all these problems, he built a road from Delhi to Daulatabad and set up rest houses on the way to help the travelers. However, many people died during their rigorous journey due to heat, since this movement took place during the summer season. The people who were brought to Daulatabad did not like the new environs. There was widespread resentment among the Sultan. After 2 years, Sultan abandoned Daulatabad and ordered to re-transfer the capital once again to Delhi. Muhammad bin Tughlaq, who initiated the project, it received a setback. However, it had many impacts on the policies of Muhammad bin Tughlaq and also the fate of Tughlaq Dynasty. The immediate impact of experiment was that it reduced the prosperity of Delhi. The Sultan lost his prestige in the estimation of the people and could never win back their confidence in all his life. The transfer of capital from Delhi to Daulatabad, though it had many disadvantages, it had resulted in a number of long-range benefits. It helped in bringing North and South India together by improving communications. Many people, including religious divines who had gone to Daulatabad, settled there, and they were the responsible persons for the spread of Islam in South India. They became the means of spreading in the Deccan the cultural, religious, and social ideas which the Turks had brought with them. After the failure of the shifting of the capital, Muhammad bin Tughlaq initiated another project, that is introduction of token currency. The introduction of token currency was the second controversial project undertaken by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. The token currency meant the introduction of copper tankas in the place of silver tankas. There was a shortage of silver in the world in the 14th century, but already Kublai Khan of China had successfully experimented with a token currency. With this inspiration, Muhammad bin Tughlaq decided to introduce the token currency, but the idea of token coin was a new one in India, and it was difficult to induce the traders as well as common man to accept it. He introduced this token currency in the year 1329 and 30, which remained in circulation for 2 years. In executing the plan in this project also, he failed miserably. The Sultan did not make the issue of token copper coins as the monopoly of the state. As a result, every house of a coppersmith and goldsmith became a mint factory. The goldsmiths began to forge the token coins on a large scale. Under these circumstances, the Sultan could not be able to prevent the forging new coins. Soon, the new coins were not accepted even in the markets because of the forging. The revenue officers, Quds and Muqaddams, also paid all the land revenue in the form of token currency. The Sultan was compelled to withdraw the token currency consequently because of these circumstances. He offered to exchange all the token coins for silver coins. Many people exchanged the new coins, but the treasury became empty. Though this experiment failed, the Edward Thomas, one of the historians, described the Sultan as the prince of moneyers for this innovative idea. The failure of the two experiments of Muhammad bin Tughlaq affected much on the prestige of the Sultan and also prosperity of the country, which he wasted much money. However, the Delhi Sultanates recovered their prosperity within a short period. After these two projects, Muhammad bin Tughlaq have undertaken another project, that is Khorasan expedition. The Khorasanian region was a part of the Persian Empire. Abu Sayyid was the Mongol emperor of Persia. He was a minor one. Muhammad bin Tughlaq, along with Tarmasharin, the ruler of Transaxana, and also the ruler of Egypt, entered into a tripartite alliance to dismantle the Persian Empire. For this purpose, Muhammad bin Tughlaq created a large army known as Khorasan army. Barani says that he recruited 370,000 men who were enrolled for this purpose and paid in advance for 1 whole year. However, the army never passed into the action. The scheme was abandoned after 1 year due to the lack of finances, the difficulties in crossing the Somme mountains, and when the Sultan learned that the conditions in Khorasan had improved, and he withdrew the Khorasan expedition without execution. After Khorasan expedition, he also undertaken the Karachil expedition in the same year 1333. Karachil expedition was a part of the project of Khorasan expedition. Karachil is located between India and China, that is Kumawan and Garhwal region. It was inhabited mostly by the Rajputs and by some Himalayan turbulent tribes. The Sultan's nephew Khusru Malik was the commander-in-chief of the expedition. The army met with Karachil. After some initial victories, the army marched into Tibet, where the entire army was annihilated in winter season, followed by an outbreak of plague. According to Barani, from an army of 10,000 who were deputed for this Karachil expedition, only 10 horsemen came back to Delhi to tell the story of the disaster. This says about the misery of which the army faced in this expedition. With the failure of all these projects and declining of the prosperity of the country, Muhammad bin Tughlaq attempted to increase the income by taking another project, that is increasing of land revenue in Doab region. In the year 1328 and 29, in order to overcome financial difficulties, Muhammad bin Tughlaq increased the land revenue in the Doab. It proved to be ill-timed for the Muhammad bin Tughlaq because the Doab at that time was passing through total famine, which was followed by plague. It had resulted in a series of peasant revolts against the Muhammad bin Tughlaq. The farmers even set fire to their grain barns and abandoned their fields. Buland Shahir and other towns witnessed open revolt against Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Even they fled from the villages. However, Muhammad bin Tughlaq took harsh measures to capture and punish the peasants. The Sultan, after severity of the revolts, realized the gravity of situation, and he undertook a number of relief measures to improve agriculture. He launched a scheme to extend and improve cultivation in the Doab region. A huge sums were advanced as Takwi loans to enable the cultivators to buy seed, cattle and sink wells and to extend cultivation. He created a new department of agriculture called Diwan-e-Kohi. The main object of this department was to bring more land under cultivation by giving direct help to the peasants. To improve the agriculture, a large tract of land, nearly 60 square kilometers, were chosen for land reclamation. Different types of crops were expected to be cultivated in rotation. Superior crops were given preference. Within 2 years, the government spent 70 lakhs of tankas. The measures he advocated, though it was not received any benefit to the Muhammad bin Tughlaq, it had a long-term impact, but they failed disastrously during the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Thus, the Doab region departed the glory of Muhammad's empire, and his administration lost very vitality. It also marked the beginning of countrywide disorders and popular upsurge against the unpopular rule of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So far, we analyzed the different projects undertaken by Muhammad bin Tughlaq during his tenure and execution of the projects, how they were failed. By all these failures, the Tughlaq also faced many political problems in the form of rebellions. Now we may turn our attention to discuss the rebellions of various parts of the country, how he lost his control over the Indian territories. The visionary schemes of Muhammad bin Tughlaq created a widespread discontent and misery. Another problem which Sultan had to face was the problem of nobility. The rebellions took place one after another in different parts of the empire. He faced as many as 34 rebellions during his reign, 27 of them in the south alone. It is known that even in the year 1329 at Kampili there was a great revolt, and he himself personally marched to south and suppressed the revolt. Later on, similarly, at Madurai, the Madurai Nawab also revolted against the Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and he established an independent dynasty in Madura. In the year 1336, the revolts in the south paved the way for the establishment of Vijayanagara Empire by Bukka I and Arihara I, which the Vijayanagara Empire gradually expanded the entire South India towards the south of the Krishna River. Besides that, in the year 1347, Alauddin Bahmani Shah, he himself revolted against the Muhammad bin Tughlaq and established Bahmani dynasty with the capital at Gulbarga. Thus, the whole of South India became independent during the lifetime of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Within a short period, he lost his control in entire South India. Besides the South Indian revolts, the governors of Awadh, Multan and Sindh also revolted against the Muhammad bin Tughlaq. However, he restored law and order in Gujarat, but while moving towards Tata in Sindh, his health became worse and died in the year 1351. Though there was a much discussion on the tenure of the Muhammad bin Tughlaq, his policies, his projects, his experiments, but we have to consider Muhammad bin Tughlaq as the greatest warrior and administrator, because he had best intentions, excellent ideas and exemplary qualities in all his projects, though he failed as a ruler. His intention in the above policies and experiments were sound and grand. Besides the above project, the abolition of sati, construction of hospitals, organization of poor relief and establishment of the Department of Agriculture were the other grand projects which earned name and fame to the Muhammad bin Tughlaq. But in the implementation of the 5 projects, he lacked the balance and a sense of proportion. Thus, the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, while making the zenith of Delhi Sultanate, also saw the beginning of the process of its disintegration. According to Badawi, the king was freed from his people, and they, that is the people, from their king. It shows the rule of Muhammad bin Tughlaq and his policies. Another important ruler of the dynasty after Muhammad bin Tughlaq is Firoz Shah Tughlaq, who ruled in between 1350 to 1388. He has also his own mark in political and cultural history of India. Let us start the Firoz Shah Tughlaq, his succession and achievements. Muhammad bin Tughlaq was succeeded by his cousin Firoz Tughlaq. Since he had no heirs, he was considered to be the last great ruler. Muhammad bin Tughlaq, during his childhood, treated him with affection and kept him in his royal company. But however, after the death of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, confusion and disorder broke out in the entire empire. As a result, the Delhi and several cities plundered by rebels and Mongols. During this critical period, the nobles urged Firoz Tughlaq to ascend the throne and save the dispirited army from destruction. Thus, he was duly elected by nobles and ulemas. Muhammad bin Tughlaq, after his accession of the throne, he appointed Malik Maqbul his prime minister and gave him the title Khan-e-Jahan. Malik Maqbul was originally a Brahmin of Warangal who had been a convert to Islam. He was an able administrator and proved to be a great asset to the administration of the Tughlaqs. Firoz had excellent record of benevolent measures to his credit. The long reign of 37 years was a period of comparative prosperity and happiness. Till then, no Muslim ruler was so much loved and venerated by the people. His reign can be studied under 2 heads. One is conquest and benevolent administration. Let us start with what are the conquests attributed to Firoz Shah Khilji. Firoz Shah, after the accession, had to face the problem of preventing the disintegration of the Delhi Sultanate. For this, he adopted a policy of trying to appease the nobles, the army and the theologians. But no attempt was made to reassert his authority over South India and the Deccan, which was lost during the time of Muhammad bin Tughlaq itself. During his time, he led 2 expeditions into Bengal, but they were unsuccessful. However, he won victories in the campaigns against the ruler of Jajnagar, Orissa. Firoz desecrated the famous Jagannath temple at Puri and gathered a rich plunder. Firoz Shah Tughlaq also led an expedition against the Nagarkot in the year 1360. After a prolonged siege of 6 months, the fort surrendered and the Raja submitted to the Sultan. Though Firoz Shah defeated the Raja of Nagarkot, after his defeat, he received honorably by the Sultan. The Sultan acquired a good booty, which included 1,300 Sanskrit manuscripts, some of which were got translated by the Sultan into Persian. His longest campaigns were to deal the rebellions in Gujarat and Sindh in the year 1362 and 1363. Although the rebellions were crushed, the army suffered great hardship. The military campaigns of Firoz were to a large extent as a failure in comparative with the Ghiyasuddin and Muhammad bin Tughlaq. His costly wars did not benefit the empire in any way. However, Firoz Shah Tughlaq gained his own mark in the history of Indian polity as a benevolent administrator. Now we can turn our discussion the silent features of the administration of Firoz Shah Tughlaq, how he became a benevolent ruler and earned name and fame to him. In spite of his military failures, the reign of Firoz was a notable and remembered in the history as benevolent administrator. He did his best and a lot to restore the prosperity of the country and to promote to the welfare of the people. He adopted a populist policy of reconciliation in all administrative matters. He reverted the policies of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, which were the reason for peaceful reign of 20 years. He chose to abide by the Sharia and thus pacified ulemas also. He pleased the nobles and assured hereditary succession to their properties. He restored the rent-free lands to the theologians, the learned and the weaker sections. He waived off all the loans granted during the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. He also abolished as many as 23 taxes. He retained only 4 taxes according to the sanction of the Islamic law. They are Kharaj, Zakat, Jizya and Khums. He introduced an irrigation tax of 10% of produce on the lands which were irrigated by the state constructed canals. In collection of revenues, the revenue officials were warned and punished for unjust extractions. He protected the interests of the peasants but also tried his best to improve agriculture. In promotion of agriculture, he excavated a large network of canals and tanks and encouraged to establish new agricultural settlements in various parts of the country. To improve the irrigation facilities and to promote the agriculture, he has taken up building of large network of canals and dams. He introduced superior crops, laid more than 1,200 state-managed fruit gardens in and around Delhi, which it increased the revenues of the Delhi Sultanate. He took sufficient interest in promoting internal trade. The merchants were relieved from the payment of irregular and oppressive duties, which obstructed the free transportation of goods from one part of the country to another. He established state-owned factories for the manufacture of various necessities of life and even luxury goods. By his administrative reforms, Firoz Shah Tughlaq tried to improve the prosperity of the country, tried to promote the agriculture, and also he provided irrigation facilities for the purpose of agriculture. Besides this, he also administered the justice in sympathetic way. He also undertook several welfare measures for the benefit of the people. Firoz Shah tried to make judicial administration more human than before. He made criminal law very light. He abolished the death sentence and also he banned the inhuman punishments like cutting of hands, nose, ears, eyes and foots for the theft and other offences. To provide free treatment to all people, he set up hospital known as Darul Ul Safa in Delhi. He provided dowries for the daughters of poor people. He established Diwan-e-Khairat to take care of the orphans and widows. All these welfare measures, it was mainly for the benefit of the people. Firoz Shah Tughlaq also contributed for the promotion of learning and literature. He took keen interest in promotion of educational activity, extended patronage to scholars, poets, historians and learned men. He patronized scholars like Bharani and Shamsiraj Afif. He established many schools and colleges in important cities and towns. Elementary schools were attached to the mosques throughout his empire. The madrasa at Firozabad, which was one of the important educational institutions, rose to be a magnificent university which surpassed all other madrasas of the time in academic attainments. Firoz Shah got some Sanskrit books translated into Persian also. He was a great founder of several towns and cities. He had a great passion of building new cities and renaming the old ones with new names. Hisar, Janpur and Firozabad in Delhi were the famous among such cities constructed during the time of Firoz Shah Tughlaq. To beautify his new capital Firozabad, 2 Ashokan pillars were brought to Delhi, one from Topra and other from Meerut. Have a look at Ashokan pillars which was erected in the Firozabad fort. Another important administrative reform is he introduced slave system also. He increased the slaves by capturing the defeated soldiers and young persons. It is said to be that there were 180,000 slaves in the empire of Firoz Shah Tughlaq, and 40,000 slaves were employed in his palace alone. This shows that the slave system became popular during the time of Firoz Shah Tughlaq. Now, in the conclusion of the Firoz Shah Tughlaq, we can assess what is his role in Tughlaq Dynasty and his place in Indian history. Firoz Shah Tughlaq was essentially a man of peace. Firoz thoroughly revised the fiscal policy of his predecessors within two objectives of ensuring adequate state revenues and reducing the burden on the taxpayers. He himself says, "Among the many gifts which God had bestowed on me, his humble servant was a desire to erect public buildings, so I built mosques, colleges and monasteries." The last years of Firoz Shah Tughlaq was full of tragedies, troubles and turmoils. They made worse by the Sultan's physical and mental infirmity. Towards his end, he reclined more towards Islam. The process of decay and disintegration of the Sultanate, which had begun during the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, gained momentum under Firoz. Within 2 decades of his death, the Sultanate of Delhi was reduced to a local principality. The struggle for power between the Sultan and nobles started once again. So far we discussed about the 3 great rulers, their personality, their character, their achievements and their contribution to Indian history and culture. After the death of Firoz Shah Tughlaq, the disintegration began for the declining of the dynasty. Now we can analyze how the Tughlaq dynasty declined and causes. Firoz Shah Tughlaq was succeeded by his grandson Tughlaq Shah, who assumed the title of Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq II. Within a year of accession, the ruler fell a victim to the intrigues and was beheaded. During the next 5 years, 3 sultans, Abu Bakr, Muhammad Shah and Alauddin Sikandar Shah, ascended the throne. The last sultan was Najiruddin Muhammad. During his reign, North India fell a victim to the fury of Amir Taimur and his marauding hordes. Taimuridization, it was the main cause for the declining of the Tughlaq dynasty. Taimur was a Turk, had started his career of conquest in the year 1370 and gradually brought under his rule the entire tract from Syria to Transoxiana and from South Russia to Indus. He was the second most barbaric, bloodthirsty and awe-inspiring warrior after Chengiz Khan, who sat on the throne of Samarkand. Taimur thought of invading India in the year 1397 with the twofold object of waging a holy war against the infidels and laying his hands upon the fabulous wealth of country. The political anarchy that prevailed in India after Firoz Shah Tughlaq facilitated his task very easily. Thus, the Taimur, in his attempt, reached successfully Delhi in December 1398 and ordered general massacre. When the Taimur entered Delhi, there was no opposition and he sacked the city for 3 days, killing thousands of people and looting enormous wealth. Taimur inflicted more misery in India than any other conqueror in single invasion. The invasion of Taimur may, however, be regarded as marking the end of Tughlaqs. The Tughlaq dynasty disappeared unceremoniously in the history of Delhi Sultanate, though the nominal rule of the Tughlaqs continued up to 1414. On its ruins, Khizr Khan Sayyid, the viceroy of Multan, founded the Sayyid dynasty in 1414. Thus, a new dynasty came to rule over Delhi Sultanate. With this discussion on Tughlaq dynasty, the rulers, their achievements, policies and their contribution to Indian culture, I hope you may understood the place of Tughlaqs in the Indian history and culture. For better understanding, you go e-text and also self-assessment. Thank you.